So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming here and joining via conference call. And I'm Duygu Yasar. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Industrial Engineering at University of Miami. And today we are going to hold our first TAG meeting for the assessment of single-stream recycling impact on the paper contamination in material recovery facilities, MRFs, and paper mills. So here is an outline for what we are going to cover today. First, I will explain our motivation to conduct this study, and then this will be followed by an explanation of research project plan and the milestones. So after the explanation of our motivation and research plan, then I will explain and give some details on our data collection progress and how we contacted the paper mills and MRFs. Next, I will explain why are we going to assess the most efficient practices and technologies implemented by MRFs. Next, I will explain the method that we are going to use to analyze the contamination rates in paper mills. And finally, I will explain the potential benefits of our study and whom people that we contacted from government and industry. And then finally, I will do my best to answer your questions. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just muted them.
So waste generation has increased dramatically, and here from the figure above you can see the waste generation of Florida since 1994. And in 2013 it reached 31.3 million tons annually, and it will keep increasing because of the population growth. So what has been done to stop or reduce this waste generation or bring some solutions to recycle it? So there is the nation's primary law, which is the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, to govern the disposal of solid waste. And there are some waste reduction strategies and renewable energy technologies that have been developed and implemented by states. And Florida State has established a 75% recycling goal to be achieved by 2020. And here you can see the current recycling rates of the largest counties in Florida. You can see that, actually I can use this. You can see that there is still a gap between the state's goal and the current recycling rates of counties, and there is a variation amongst counties as well. So in order to collect more recyclables from community, counties have started to switch to single-stream recycling. In Florida, over 70 cities are implementing single-stream recycling currently, and the system is the use of a single bin to collect all recyclables and use of a single compartment truck. As you can see from the graph above, since 2005, population with access to single-stream recycling increased from 20% to over 60%. So why did single-stream recycling attract a lot of attention? Because it has a lot of advantages over other collection methods. First, it reduces the number of trucks on the road, because trucks do not need to have multiple compartments and they can collect more recyclables at a time. And this reduces the collection costs of recyclables from the community and increases the amount of collected recyclables. For example, in city of Deerfield Beach in Florida, after they switched to SSR, single-stream recycling, the amount of recyclable material that they collected has increased by 20%. And also it reduces the sorting effort of people. So they tend to throw away more recyclables when they are using single-stream recycling than they do in other collection methods. Here you can see the results of a study conducted to see the difference between participation rates of single stream recycling and source separation recycling. And during 8 weeks, single stream recycling had always more participation than source separation recycling. So other than its advantage, there are also disadvantages of implementing SSR, especially for the end user facilities. So they observe increased contamination rates in their recyclable stream, and this increased contamination reduces the quality of recovered material, and they need to replace the contaminated material with the raw material. So they need to buy more raw material and they need to pay more, which increases their costs and decreases their revenue. So there is an example of this situation, NORPAC paper mill. So the story of NORPAC paper mill is, prior to 2001, they used to receive all of their recyclables from source separation recycling, and they had zero prohibitive and glass rate in their stream. Prohibitive materials, those are the materials that damage the equipment in the facility or make the product unusable. For example, if it's a paper mill, glass, plastic, bottles, cans, metal cans, those would be prohibited materials. And outthrows would be the other paper grades, unsuitable paper grades in a specific paper grade. If it's newspaper stream, old corrugated containers would be the outthrows in that stream. So they had zero prohibitives and some like really little outthrow rates in their stream. And in 2003, after their suppliers started to switch to single stream recycling, they used to receive 42% of their recyclables from single and dual stream, and they started to observe glass and prohibitive materials in their stream. And after 2006, they received even more recyclables from single and dual stream, almost 68% of it, of the whole recyclable stream. And their contamination rates for both glass and prohibitive materials and outthrows increased dramatically. So they had to invest over like $100,000 to improve the quality of recovered fiber, and their annual costs increased by $2 million. So there is a limit of the prohibitive materials and the outthrows in the recycled stream, suggested by Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. As you can see, these both outthrow and prohibitive limits, the total of them should not exceed 5% for old corrugated containers and soft mixed paper, and should not exceed 3% for hard mixed paper, 4% for old newspaper. And as you can see from NORPAC paper mill example, their outthrow rates was 15%, which is way more higher than it should be. So our project will assess the single stream recycling impact to analyze this overall picture, impact on the contamination rates, and we want to see if it's significantly higher than other collection systems. And as a side note, these are the 5 basic paper grades defined by EPA, and our research project will be focusing on these 5 basic paper grades. So after we assess the impact of single stream recycling on paper contamination in both MRFs and paper mills, we will assess the technologies and the collection practices that are implemented by the most efficient MRFs and the paper mills. So first task of the project is the data collection from AFPA, counties, material recovery facilities, paper mills, and the technology vendors. And second task is to assess the contamination rates in MRFs. This will be followed by the contamination rates analysis in paper mills. And then finally, we will assess the most efficient practices that are implemented by those MRFs which have the least contamination rates in their stream. So those are the data sources that we are going to contact. Solid Waste Association of North America, United States Environmental Protection Agency, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and American Forest and Paper Association for their surveys and statistics, paper mills and MRFs for the contamination rates in their stream, Florida counties and the waste management publications for the technologies. So we have already contacted to the most of them, and here are some feedback that we got from them. We already placed 146 emails, and we made 65 phone calls to collect the data. American Forest and Paper Association. So American Forest and Paper Association, they do not have a database for paper contamination in paper mills, but they provided us a study that they conducted last year, a similar study, but they analyzed the recovery rates and costs of mixed waste facilities, mixed waste recycling facilities. So we cannot use this data for our study because our study is focusing on single stream recycling, not mixed waste. So Florida Department of Environmental Protection, they do not have data for contamination rates in MRFs or recycling programs. They do not hold the counties or MRFs responsible to collect this data. But this issue has been on their radar for like 6 months, and they are really interested in our study and findings. They want to be in the loop for the rest of our study. And recycling divisions of 67 counties. So we sent our data request via email to them, and we called some of them. Polk, Marion, Putnam, and you can see the rest. Those are the counties that got back to us and provided some information on their recycling programs and the contamination rates. So next task is to analyze the contamination rates in counties. So we got information from those counties about their contamination rates. Polk County, they implement single stream recycling to collect and process their recyclables, and their contamination rate is around 12%. But an interesting information is that prior to 2012, they used to before they switched to SSR, their contamination rate was around 2%. So it increased dramatically after they switched to SSR. Marion County, they use single stream recycling in partnership with Waste Pro USA, and the loads exceeding 10% contamination are sent to landfills directly. And you can see they have a 5% contamination rate, which is actually lower than some of those stream recycling programs. And they said the reason for this lower contamination is that their staff is monitoring when they are collecting the bins from community. They are very careful about it, and it's resulted in a lower contamination. Putnam County, they use a combination of dual stream and source separation in partnership with Waste Pro USA. And the most problematic contaminant type is glass for their stream. Hernando County, their contamination rate is around 5% in over 5,000 tons that they collected from community. Sarasota County, they use dual stream in partnership with Free Community. And in the MRF of Free Community, they have mechanical separation screens, optical sorting, and manual sorting systems. And their contamination rate is around 6%. So those are the counties that provided some information to us, but not contamination rates. So Hardy County, they stated that they don't have contamination that much or at all because they have only one drop-off center in the town, and households directly transport their recyclables to this drop-off center or to the MRF. Since the recyclable materials do not get mixed in a truck or broken, their contamination is really little. So Okeechobee County, they do not track their material. Waste management do the collection and processing of recyclables. So we should contact them.
Which we did.
Which we did actually. So we have a meeting with them next week to explain our project and get some data from them, request data from them.
Yes.
So Pasco County, they has a partial single stream recycling program in partnership with Progressive Waste. They collect aluminum, metal food cans, plastic bottles and glass bottles, but they do not collect paper and cardboard. So they do not collect paper and cardboard, and their contamination rate is around 7.5%. Flagler County, they sent their waste directly to Volusia County, and Nassau County, they do not have an MRF in their county or a mandatory recycling program. So next, we will analyze the contamination rates in paper mills. So there is contamination rates once the material recovery facilities receive the recyclables from community, which are non-recyclable materials. And there is also contamination rates once they are sorted and sent to end-user facilities. When paper mills, for example, receive the recovered fiber, they see not non-recyclable, glass is recyclable, but glass is contamination for them. But in inbound material of material recovery facilities, glass is not contamination because it's recyclable. So we are going to also request the contamination rates from paper mills for 5 basic paper grades, and we are going to also ask for the most common contaminant types of their stream. There is an example here, Blue Heron Paper Company. So in 1998, their suppliers started to switch to single stream recycling, and after 1999, most of them in 2 years, most of them switched to single stream recycling. You can see its impact in the landfill costs and contamination rates. They increased after 1999, as you can see from the figure. And in 2002, they established a new sorting equipment and process flow. They improved it. So you can see its impact as a decrease in the contamination rates and landfill costs of the unusable material. So their complaints were about the glass, metal, and plastics damaged their equipment, and they needed to hire outside services to clean their equipment. And for this reason, you can see the decrease after they improved their technology. The contamination rates decrease. That is why we are going to also assess the most efficient practices and the technologies that are implemented by both MRFs, collection system, and the paper mills. So there are a lot of technology suppliers out there. There is bulk handling systems, CP manufacturing systems, and there is also Machinex. In fact, there are 2 examples in state of Florida from San Luis County MRF and Republic Services. Machinex designed 2 MRFs. We have 2 examples from Machinex, San Luis County and Republic Services. Both of them are single stream recycling MRFs, but as you can see, Machinex used different equipment and technology to design these MRFs. So the MRF design should be based on the characteristic of the community and the waste types that are collected from the community. So we are going to use analysis of variance to analyze the paper contamination rates in separate paper mills. So we are going to do this analysis individually based on each paper mill. And ANOVA has factors and treatment groups to analyze the contamination rate. We have two factors. We have the first factor is using single stream recycling or using other types of collection methods. And the second factor is the different grades of paper. So each treatments are any combination of these two factors, and those are the contamination rates. So based on the result, we will reject or accept the null hypothesis. We will reject or do not reject the null hypothesis, and we will conclude that if the population means of single stream recycling and other types of collection are different than each other or not. So here are the potential benefits of our study. So if the paper contamination rates in single stream recycling are significantly higher than other types of collection methods, then paper mills, MRFs, and governments can take some actions against that. Next slide. Against that, a government can bring some limitations to the authorized and prohibited material rates in recovered fiber, and they can hold MRFs responsible to collect this data and do sampling and publish these reports in their website, in government websites. MRFs can improve their processes, and paper mills can request more quality fiber from MRFs. If it's not, then the wrong opposition against the single stream recycling can be clarified by informing people and the MRFs and the mills about it. So here are the people that who got back to us and gave some information. Those people are from Polk County, AFPA, Waste Management Company, Atlas Paper Mills, and you can see the rest here. And those are the reports and journal papers that we use to better explain our study. And our team is comprised of me, Merhat Bastani, who is a PhD candidate in the Department of Industrial Engineering, and we both are working with Dr. Çelik, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Industrial Engineering. So thank you for listening me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions.